Hey guys, it's Weds. Today we're going to talk about an early endgame build for the Barbarian. If you just picked up the Barbarian and then you're trying to get to level 100, this build will carry you from level 50 all the way to 80 and probably beyond that. But after level 80, this is when you start trying to get all the uniques that you can. That way you can push for more damage and all the late in-game stuff. In any case, we are going to start with the gear and aspect, but we are going to try not to spend too much time on the gear and aspect because everything is detailed on d4build.gg. There is a link in the description. You can check it out and you will be able to see everything in more detail. Now, without further ado, let's start with the helmet. In the helmet, we are using the exploiters aspect. And as you can see right here, you have increased CC to the enemy. That means you have more opportunity to do more damage to them. Now, as far as these stats are concerned, you are trying to get some cooldown reduction on your helmet and also total armor. Those are very important if you can get those. But again, everything is detailed in d4build.gg, so you can see all the priorities when it comes to the stat, and you can just go take a look at that. That way we don't have to spend too much time here. Now, on the chest piece, we are using the might aspect. This is a very popular one because most builds in this game are using this, and because it is a very good one. Now, on your chest piece, you're trying to get as much damage reduction as possible. That way you can sustain yourself and stay in the game a lot longer. And for our gloves, we are using the relentless berserkers aspect. This aspect focuses on getting your berserk as long as possible, because as a barbarian you want to be berserk as much as possible. That way you can do more damage. Now, when it comes to the stats, you are trying to get some ranks to the hammer of the ancient, because the build is all about hammer of the ancient, so you can do more damage and the cooldown is going to be a lot better for you. Now, for our pants, we are using aspect of the numbing wrath. This will help us out with staying alive. Now, when it comes to the stats on the pants, this is where you're also trying to get some damage reduction as well as some total armor, so you can try to get your armor as high as possible. Now, for the boots, we are using the aspect of audacity. This one is one of my favorite aspects in this game, but you don't have to use this if you don't want to. But I like the CC when you stun the enemy. This is a very good one for me. And now, when it comes to the stats on the boots, this is where you're trying to maximize your potential for resistance. If you can get 3 resistance on the boots, then you are on your way to some greatness. And for our weapon, we are using the Edge Masters aspect just for some increased damage when we use our skills. And you are trying to get the highest item power that you can find to put on those weapon slot. Now, when it comes to the first slot for the weapon, we are using a 2-handed mace. This is very important because you get that overpowered damage on there, and that is very good for us. Now, when it comes to the stats, damage while berserking should be on your top priority, because this is going to help you, because like I said, as a barbarian, you are trying will always be berserking. That way you can do more damage. Now, for our first one-handed weapon, we are using the aspect of elements. This aspect comes in season 2. A lot of people may not realize how powerful this aspect can be, but it is always on. So you have 7 seconds where it rotates through 3 different type of damage, so it is always on. Now, when it comes to the stats, you have to prioritize damage while berserking, like I already mentioned. Just some damage to close enemy, as well as some overpowered damage if you can have it on there. And for our second one-handed weapon, we are using the aspect of ancestral force. This aspect should be your priority when you are using the Hammer of the Ancient build, and it is also in the codex, so this is not difficult to get. So just make sure you slap that on one of your weapons or somewhere in your build. That way your Hammer of the Ancient can function like it's supposed to. Now, when it comes to the stats, you just want to use the same stats that we mentioned for the previous weapon. Now, for our last weapon, we are using the aspect of Limitless Rage. This aspect will let us do more damage with our Hammer of the Ancient, so it is a very good one to make sure that you put on there. Now, when it comes to the stats, prioritize what we already mentioned: overpowered damage, damage while berserking, etc., etc. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind, if you want to maximize your potential with this build, just make sure you use the axe on this slot, and also you use some one-handed mace on the slots right here. And then for this one, you use it in a two-handed mace. As you can see, the advantage of that, if you're using mace, you get that overpowered damage, which is what you want as a barbarian. Now, let's move on to our amulet. For our amulet, we are using the disobedience aspect. Now, you want the aspect of disobedience in your build. That way, you can reach the armor cap easier. So, this is one of the best aspects for defense in the game. So, if you can put that in your build, just make sure you do that. Now, when it comes to the stats, for the amulet, you're trying to get some cooldown reduction, as well as trying to get some ranks to whatever passive that you are using. That always going to be a good thing for you. So what I got here is not too bad, but I got 2 out of the best stats that you can get, which is cooldown and then some ranks to the heavy-handed passive. But it's whatever passive that you are using, you're trying to get some ranks on there. Now, the other stats are not too bad, but those are not priority. Now, for our first ring, we are using the bold chieftains aspect. This one is a very good one, but it is an RNG aspect. You have to actually find it while you are playing, or you can try to gamble for it at the obos vendor by buying rings, and then hopefully you can get one and then put it in your build. This is very important for this build because we are using a lot of shot skill, and that will help you out a lot. Now, when it comes to the stats for the rings, you are trying to get damage while berserking on there if you can, and also get some maximum fury and resource regeneration, all those good stats you can have in the ring. Now, for our last ring, we are using the aspect of echoing fury. This is also in the codex. All you gotta do is just complete the dungeon that it pertains to, and then you will get this. This will help us with fury management in the build, so it is important to put that on there if you can. Now, when it comes to the stat, you're trying to get some resource generation in there, some maximum fury, as well as damage when berserking. Now, when it comes to the gems on the build, we are trying to put ruby on all our armor, and for the weapon, I mix it up with some emerald. But that's just me. I like to incorporate some critical strike damage to crowd control enemy. That way I cover all my bases. But you can just go with all emerald and you should be good to go for all your weapons when it comes to the gems. Now let's move on to our expertise. For the expertise, the most popular one is the two-handed axe expertise, because that gives you that increased multiplicative damage to vulnerable enemies. Now let's go to our skill tree, and the first one that we are using, the lunging strike, this is our fury generators, and we're taking the combat lunging strikes. And we go into our core skill. We are using, of course, hammer of the ancients. This is the build, and we are using the furious hammer. Down to our defensive skills, we put a point in a ground stomp, and we also using a tactical ground stomp. And then we put 3 in imposing presence, as well as 3 in martial vigor. We put 1 point in rallying cry, and we use tactical rallying cry. And down below, we took a challenging shout, and then we also take the tactical challenging shout. Now move on to our brawling skills. We took 1 in war cry, and then we go with power war cry. And then we also max out booming voice, max out raid leader, and then to the right we max out swiftness just for our movement speed. And we put 1 point in aggressive resistance, and we max out prolific fury. Down to our weapon mastery, we max out pit fighter, and then we go down and put 1 point in thick skin and max out counter offensive. And then for our ultimate skill, we take 3 in wallop, and we also take 3 in heavy handed. This is the reason why in the amulet we need some rank there. Now moving on to our key passive, we have many options that we can take here, but we go with the walking arsenal because we want to use our hammer of the ancient more than once. But if you want some heavy hitting damage, then you go with unbridled rage. This gives you more damage, but most of the time you only use it once, and then you have to go back and try to generate some more fury and use it. But it is a very good option for some big boy damage. You can also even mess around with unconstrained, that way you can have your berserking a lot longer. But like I said, I go with the working arsenal. It's working all right, but you have some options. That is it for the skills. Let's move on to the Paragon board. Now, this is a work in progress as we don't have all the points yet. But what we have here is the same thing that we follow on Maxwell.gg. They have a very good Paragon board and it works really well. So I go and follow their setup and it's been working fine. Now the difference in what I'm doing here and what they do on Maxwell, they're using ire right here, but I decided to go with the Corsair because I want that overpowered damage here. But eventually you can switch this to ire and you should be good to go. But I don't want to spend a lot of time in this. This is on defaultbuild.gg and you can see everything in more detail. And if you want to follow this, you can do the same thing here. For the second board, we are using the territorial glyph. And then move on to our third board here. We are using the might glyph. Take all these points right here and then this is where we stop. And that's it for the Paragon board. Let's move on to our vampiric powers. Now for the vampiric powers, you have many options as well. So those are the ones that I'm using. Hemomancy has been a very popular one for this season. So if you want to use this, you can, but you don't have to. There are other options. Just use whatever is going to be more beneficial to you. But this is the one that I'm using. And then I also put resilience on there. You want that resilience, especially when you started. You started at level 50 trying to get an early end game build. And the resilience is key to help you stay alive in the game. And then we're also using metamorphosis. As long as you have this on there, unstoppable is a very good thing. Now you will hear this throughout the community. Try not to upgrade this to level 3, but I made a mistake and go to level 2, but it's all right. But try not to go to level 3 because you'll get more benefit. The cooldown for your unstoppable is going to be a lot better if you are at the lowest level. And then I go with Undying. I like this one right here, but this is not one that everybody uses for their Barbarian build. I like to use this. I like the safety of knowing that I'm hitting things and then I'm getting health back. So that's why I use this one. But alternatively, you can use the Blood Bottle one because you get that overpower every 30 seconds. So this is a very good one. You can slap on there if you want to, but I like to use the Undying one. And for our last one, we are using the Sanguine Brace. This is a very good one. As long as you're killing things, then you get that safety net to stay alive. So you get that fortify on there and you are good to go. Just upgrade all of those as much as possible except for the metamorphosis. And just don't do like me, like I forget to upgrade those things. So it is all right. Anyway, guys, that's all we have. Hopefully give this a try and trying to level up from 50 to 100. Let me know in the comment section if you have any suggestion or anything interesting. So I would be most appreciative. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.